Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith, I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom. And today I thought I'd bring you another one of my 3D projects. Those of you who follow me will know I love boxes, along with fun folds. And this is just a way of creating a lovely little gift box for somebody to pop a few gifts in. You can see here, it looks like an ordinary box, but when you open it up, it's one of my fun Criss Cross boxes, so it's just a little bit of a different side on it, but it makes it rather a nice presentation box. And then just fold that up, pop the belly band on, and you're good to go. So I'm using the lovely flowing flowers, as you can see here, this beautiful big image here. But a tip I picked up from another demo, and that's one of the great things about being a demonstrator, the people you get in touch with, is that this die here from the art gallery actually does a pretty good job of cutting out this flower. It's not a perfect fit, but it's stylized enough that it really doesn't matter, and it just means that you get this lovely flower on the top, and because it goes over the edge you don't get any sort of white edge you show, which I think is rather nice for a change. So that's what I'm going to be using today. So let's get started. So this is a biggie. I'm working in centimetres as usual, but I will try and put inches onto my blog if you want to do that. I'm going to do my cutting of my cardstock first, and then we'll do some of our stamping to follow on. So I'm going to work with the lovely hand-penned petals. Anyway, it's this DSP here. Yes, hand-penned DSP. It is retiring. It is on offer at the moment, so if you love it, go get it while it's available. It is so pretty, but I am trying to use it up, and so I thought I'd use this lovely, beautiful all-over Highland Heather pattern here. And I'm going to need not a lot of DSP, great for using up your scraps. This is, I mean, as you can see, I always keep my scraps in with mine, so. And you might even find I've got enough on that scrap there. So let's have a little look. So the piece of DSP that I actually want, I'm going to want two pieces for the front and the top, and then a piece for each of the sides. You could obviously pop one on the back if you wanted to. I'm just doing the top and front, as that's what most people are going to look at. So this is great because it is an all-over pattern as well. And we want a piece that's 9.5 by 5, and you can see this is just short of 9.5. So I'm actually going to cut my two pieces at 5 centimetres first, because what that will give me is it stops me cutting that a bit short, and then I'm going to cut my 9.5. Sometimes I'll cut down the length first, but I do try and sort of minimise wastage by keeping those little bits to a minimum. So that's my two layers. For the side, I'm actually going to take it at 5 by 5 centimetres. I could go slightly smaller than that, but I want that to be quite flush. And you just need one 5 by 5 piece, which you're going to cut in half. And that's where a non-directional pattern is kind of essential for this one, because it's going to be cut on the diagonal and used on the two corners, so it's going to be kind of like that on the side. Okay, other bits of cutting that I'm going to do, you're going to want a scrap of Highland Heather in this instance, so your contrast card to the top, so that is 2.2 by 10.5, and a piece of basic white that is 10.3 by 1.9, so that's just to make our banner. Then you're going to want a piece of Highland Heather for the belly band, so that's 4 centimetres wide. What I've done is I've just cut it off the length of A4, and that's so that I can wrap it around and just trim it as I need to. And then for the main box, you're going to want a piece that is 27.5 centimetres. So this is perfect for, this is sized deliberately to fit onto the US cardstock as well. So that will go down to ours is 8 1/4, but you'll just need to trim it, so it's 21 centimetres. So trim it to 8 1/4 inches if you're working in US cardstock. So in terms of the scoring then, scoring on the short edge is quite simply at 5.5 centimetres on each side. And then on the long edge, we are going to score again at 5.5, at 11, at 16.5, and at 22. So it's just every 5.5 centimetres along the length. So pop those to one side just for the moment, and we'll do our stamping. So as I've said, I'm going to, I've got my piece of basic white for my sentiment. I then obviously want a piece that's large enough to stamp my image onto. So I've just got a scrap of basic white here. And then I've got my Highland Heather ink. Now if you wanted to, you could add some colour to the centre of this as well, if you wanted to add a bit of gorgeous grape, or if you wanted to do it in range. But because it's a distinctive stamp, it's already got that shading. So you literally, as you take that off, you'll see it's got that darker bit in there already. And you get a lovely image from that. I'm going to stamp my happy birthday. So I'm just going to sort of stamp that roughly in the middle, because that gives me the space to cut my my flag in my end and then trim it afterwards. So it just gives me plenty of space. Pop my stamps to one side so I don't get too inky. Then I'm just going to die cut this. So again, as you can see, it's not a perfect match, but you can choose to kind of manipulate that whichever way you want. I think that's going to work for me. And pop that through your die cutting machine. It will fit through the mini cut and emboss as well. So that's really useful for when you're out and about. It's a great little machine. I'm obviously at my desk, so I'm using my big one here. But you can see when you cut that out, you can see where you've sort of, and you've got a really pretty flower there as well. So pop that to one side. And now we need to do a bit of cutting and scoring on our box. So I'll bring my card back in. What we're going to do is, I'm going to sort of mark, I'll show you, you'll want a ruler and you'll want your scoring tool. And I'm actually going to just score these just to show you at the moment. So I'm going to cut diagonally across this one and in the same orientation on the second one down. So diagonal, diagonal. Then we're going to come in the opposite way. Then we're going to come again out and then back in. So let me show you that on the on our cutter. So on your trimmer, just line that up across from the score line to score line, and that's our first cut. This next one is going to cut, I would do that with scissors. I'm going to do this bottom one as well first, actually. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut straight up those two, and you can do those on your trimmer. So you can cut up each of the score lines. So I'm just cutting to that first score line from the top and from the bottom up. And you have got a little indicator on your cutting blade as to where the cutting blade actually is, and you can just line that up with your score lines as well. You'll probably need to stand over your trimmer to do it, to see where that line actually comes to. just make sure you lift it rather than before you take it down to the bottom, and pop it down. So we've cut each of those flaps, and that then means that we can fold these in, which will help us line up our next cut. So again, just line those up. So again, fold away, next one. I'm saying, so that's why I kind of, it's a little bit more work maybe, but it just means you get a nice cut with your trimmer. The only thing you have to watch is when you get to this point and you've got quite a lot of bulk, you don't want to be folding your track down onto your card and getting a crease in there, so you might want to just flip it around as I've done here. But you can see here just at the bottom, so just move it up and make sure that's nice and clear. There we go. So you'll end up with a piece that looks like that. So you're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So you're just mirroring these. So I'm not scoring on this one, you've sort of got the idea. So this one, I'm coming here from the inside to the out. And just making sure I'm keeping clear of the track. Again, you can see, you know, down that groove, which direction it's going to go in. Just tuck those out of the way again. Again, just because this is just straight diagonal cutting. Okay. As I say, you might prefer to draw it on first. If that's easier for you, that's going to work well, but I would recommend that you kind of fold the flaps out of the way to avoid cutting into the wrong one. And that last one at the bottom, just going to cut diagonally. So there we go. So at the end you'll end up with a piece that looks like this. Okay, that's better orientation. So now we're ready to just finish burnishing off those score lines. You probably could have done that before you started cutting. It might make them easier for you to see. Like so. And then what we want to do now is actually add our DSP ready for our lid. So this top section where the two overlap like that is our lid and our top. So that's the easy way to remember. Our DSP is going onto this bit with the pointy bits at each side. So we're going to just add those onto there, and then we're going to add our corner pieces onto the corner as well, which I haven't yet cut diagonally. Just quickly grab my trimmer then. So just cut that in half diagonally. So, and as I usually say when I'm doing sort of triangles, I do tend to use Tombow as my preferred adhesive because it gives me some wriggle room. I'm going to put this on the front flap because I want that to have the sort of the nice edge there. Oh, actually that isn't in fact square. I think I'm going to redo that one. It's measure twice, cut once, my dad always used to say. Perhaps I should have listened a little more. So I'm just adding some Tombow to these rectangles, and actually looking at that I think I've cut it at 5.5 by 5, and that one as well. I didn't trim it, did I? Okay, let's have a look. Yep, so this one was 9.5, and this is where, because I hadn't trimmed it to start off with. So, there we go. So, yes, eventually I get there. There we go, that's better. So that is 5 by 9.5, and my square should be 5 by 5. So I'm just going to cut myself another from a little scrap here. That is 5 by 5. There we go, so 5 by 5. And then cut in half diagonally. And as I usually say, when you pop it in the track diagonally, cut from the middle out because you're cutting into a point. There we go. Right. Okay, so I think this will probably be a better fit now. Oh yes, look, there we go. And that is a narrow border on the sides there. You could take it down to 4.5 by 4.5, and that would give an even border the same as on the top. But actually I find it works quite nice with that very narrow border just as well. There we go. Okay, so now we've got our box, all we actually need to do is actually start folding it up. So as I said, this is our lid, so we know that that's going to layer on top of each other. And what I recommend is you have a look at that in case you've been not quite so accurate with your cutting. Oh, that DSP has now moved. If ever your DSP moves, just keep an eye on it, and you should be able to just pick it up and adjust very slightly. There we go. As I was saying, just make sure that those are nice and accurate. That one is. I think this one, you look, I can see I haven't cut right into the point. So that was my first one that I did. So all you need to do then is just come in and just cut. And because that particular edge is hidden, it doesn't matter if it's slightly short. You see that's now a nice fit. So you're going to need to use either some Tombow or your Seal Plus for this. Seal Plus, because you want a really good fit on a box, and you want something that's really nice and strong. And so just come in and line up that back nice and square. So we're lining up there. And then give that a good burnish. By burnishing, what you're doing is obviously just helping that bond to really fit. So that's our lid. So the next 3 pieces all overlap. So what you want is one, show you, you want one on the inside and one on the outside of that middle flap. So I'm going to say the 2 back ones on the inside, then the middle ones, and then the front ones. And on the front one, you don't want glue across all of it. You only want it on that small section. That's my cat trying to wreck the joint. So on these ones, we're fine. We can put our adhesive all over. So on the inside of that middle flap, that's going to again line up like so. So that's our back, and then this front section, we're just going to put our glue on that front corner. If you imagine a diagonal line halfway up there, that's where we're going with it. And just pop that on the front, like so. And then cross it over, and there's our little box. Now to make the belly band, so then bring in our DSP, and what I'm going to do is actually do a bit of a mix of folding and scoring. So I'm taking the full width and folding across. Then I'm going to pop that into my trimmer, and I'm just going to score on the edge of that and then reinforce it. And I'm going to come down to my second one and just fold it gently around. Pop it back in. And then you're not using 16ths or any tiny measurements. You're just constantly using the size of the box itself. And as long as you come from the top round, that should give you a nice feel to it. And that one is going to come in slightly. Yeah. And just make sure that that's nice and square. In fact, that piece doesn't actually, that could be why I'm having a challenge. I haven't actually cut that as straight as I might have done. There we go. So again, on the top, down the front, so underneath, and fold. And the last one is back over the top. And then once you've done that, if you just give yourself a couple of centimetres away from that end, that gives you plenty of space to overlap it. Because what you're going to do is you're going to come around, there's the front, and overlap so that solid piece on the top, and then you've got no join showing at all. Again, you can just grab your seal, like so, and then we're ready just to finish with our decoration. So we want to take our flag piece, and I'm just going to come in. Now you can either use the tailored tag punch, if you've still got that. You can take your banners picker punch, and I'm just going to pop, you can pop that in underneath, and although it doesn't fit one of those, if you have a look at it underneath, you'll find it just punches perfectly. So there we go, that's going to fit across there perfectly. Of course, I have now dropped my other piece. There we go. And you'll see that just fits and gives a nice band. Add your basic white layer to the front of your Highland Heather. Leave yourself a bit to work with, so, and then you can just come in and you can create your own layer on the end there. And then at the far end, all I'm going to suggest is that you decide where you want that to sit, and then just mark, and then you can pop that into your trimmer and just trim that down, and then you know it's going to be nice and straight. I find when I cut with scissors, yeah, sometimes it's not quite so straight. Just add some adhesive onto the end there. Again, don't come right to the end because obviously that's overhanging, like so. And then we can add some dimensionals onto the back section, because that's where our flower is going to be, and it's easier to add them onto there and then add our flower, and you can tuck that under the edge if you want, or just have it overlapping like so. And then I've got these lovely iridescent jewels, so these are in the spring catalogue as well. So pretty, and the lovely thing about these obviously is because they're being iridescent, they do pick up the colour of what you're putting it on. So there we go, there you have a pair of fun crisscross boxes. I've gone for my Highland Heather and my Blushing Bride. Either would look lovely, and as I said, you know, use your art gallery dies to cut that out. You can fussy cut it too, of course, but this just makes that a little bit easier. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon, and please hit the subscribe button with that little bell. It does make a difference. The number of subscribers helps me provide these projects free of charge. Thank you very much. Bye bye.